Happy July, everybody. We're switching things up a little bit. I'll be kicking it off. Jim just got home about 10 minutes ago from back in Indiana, so he's probably a little jet lagged. I know he had a delay in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta currently, and he's coming to you from North Carolina. But we're gonna give you a quick lay of the land, as he would say. We're gonna talk a little bit about something that popped up on Twitter this week that might interest some Braves fans, along with our traditional good, bad, and ugly, player of the week, upcoming matchups, and then also our hot takes. Anything I missed?
No, I think you're good to go, Nicholas. But speaking of deGrom, how about that? Buster was Buster Olney. It came out with it, wasn't it? Just
Yeah,
like
Buster Olney dropped the
that
news.
was the biggest elbow off the top rope I think anybody could have ever seen. And now, of course, it's creating a bunch of hoopla and whatnot. But I'll kind of give my 2 cents, and then Nick, you can kind of give yours, and we'll start off, our main part of the show. But I don't care. Is that bad to say? Just because he's always injured, he's worth a lot. I don't care if he comes. Great. I feel like Anthopoulos has, will be able to wiggle in and out of stuff. I don't know if Morton has an opt out in his contract. I wish he could opt in to play around July every year, because that's when he's really seems to get hot. So, but to me, like, it's one of those things, like, if he comes, great. If he doesn't, I don't care, because if he goes back to the Mets, we've handled him fairly well. It's somebody that we see all the time. It's not like, he's out there with the Angels and we see him once every 3 years and, we don't know what to do with him. So to me, I mean, if that is true, great. I don't know where he's really going to fit in the rotation, especially if it's like a 1 to 2 year deal. Even though Ian's kind of shaky right now, which I know we'll talk about later. But he's only in his second full non messed up season without COVID. So to me, cool. That's pretty much just the gist of what I have to say about it. It's cool if he comes, cool if he doesn't.
Yeah, you and I are kind of on the same page with that. I'm like, just like you said perfectly. If he cools, or if he comes, cool. If he doesn't, so be it. He hasn't pitched a major league game in close to a year now. And that's saying something. I don't know if it'd be interesting. I know one of my hot takes a couple weeks ago was that deGrom doesn't even start 5 games. He might be looking to say, "Hey, I'm just going to sit out for a season and let my arm rest, and just sign a free agent deal come the off season." I wouldn't be surprised. But again, he's going to be a high asking price, one that I don't think the Braves are willing to fork up, given who we have. Max Fried. Spencer Strider now is become a breakout. If he keeps pitching like he is, he'll be a mainstay in the rotation. Charlie Morton, don't know if he'll go another season or if he might retire after this season. So who knows? But we're getting Soroka back, and Kyle Wright seems to have proven himself. And I know a big name down in the minor league system right now is Kyle Muller, who has really impressed with his past couple outings. Maybe they're doing what they did with Wright last year, where he just stays in AAA the whole season for him to figure it out. And then I think I said this already, but with Soroka coming back, I mean, there's not really a need for a Jacob deGrom on this team. It'd be a nice addition, but with somebody who makes 16 to 20 starts a season, I'm not willing to fork up 30 million for. It just doesn't seem plausible.
And as we record this on the Sunday night, could you imagine how absolutely terrifying it was for that low A team that he faced today? He gave up no hits, pitched an inning and 2/3, all 5 outs were strikeouts. And you got to think, I don't know what affiliate that team was. I don't know what kind of prospects, but you figure maybe 2, I'm probably being generous here, but 3 to 4 of those guys are going to make it to the professionals. And by then deGrom's probably going to be gone. If they're on a non-Michael Harris or Spencer Strider track, it takes them 3 or 4 years. That is absolutely terrifying to know that you're going against that guy as a low A, because it's different whenever you're facing guys with, 100-mile-per-hour stuff that is an actual low A player, because they have no control. So you can just sit there and just kind of, wait for a good pitch and wait for his breaking ball. With deGrom with that control, I would have been crapping down both legs. So kudos to those guys because I'm sure that's something they'll never forget, and they'll probably not be able to sleep tonight because deGrom will be in their thoughts.
We'll move on from that, to our GBU. Jimmy, if you want to kick that off and talk about your good, bad, and ugly this week.
Yeah, so I would say definitely, I don't want to copy you, but I mean, it's very apparent that outside of Ian Anderson, our three pitchers, especially for the Red Series, was just absolutely lights out. So that's definitely a good highlight, I would think. But I would just say, we're winning. That's the biggest thing. 4-2 road trip. The Phillies without Bryce Harper, it's the Phillies. They're going to try to give us the best that they can. For some reason, we can, the Reds always have our number in some way, shape, or form. But that's good. If we go out and keep winning road trips and then have a very favorable homestand, we are going to, we've already seen it. We got down to 2.5 games against the Mets outside of Sunday night whenever we lost and they won 3.5. They have cut 8 games in 30 days. That is my good because that is very, very hard to do. And even the Mets slightly going above 500 and watching Frank the Tank have a meltdown, the Braves had to step it up, which they did. They're 23-5 in their last 29 games, I think. And they're hitting the ball, they're throwing strikes, they're not walking as many. So to me, that's good. The bad, I would say, is probably Will Smith. We're back to regular season vintage Will, where it makes me really nervous, especially like on Saturday when he had the bases loaded. To me, I think, Will's not a closer. He is much better, I think, at that 7-6 inning spot. And then I think, even with Colin McHugh too, I know I was overreacting and joking, but he is not an 8th inning guy. That is, once Kenley gets back healthy, that is AJ's spot. McHugh is a 7th inning guy. And so I think that's probably why we saw a little bit of struggle with the 4 straight hits on Sunday night. Just in my opinion, I say the ugly is something's got to get going with Ian. I know you're going to talk about this a little bit more too, so I won't go too much in depth, but this kid's riding himself a spot into kind of like what Freed did in 2018, 2019 in the playoffs where he was in the bullpen for the playoffs. So he's writing himself that kind of script or something too, where there is a Moeller. I think we'll happily trade a strong lefty arm for righty arms, considering we only have one in that rotation right now. So that's my GBU, Nicholas.
Yeah, my good obviously has been the starting rotation outside of Ian Anderson. I'll get a little bit into the Ian Anderson part and later on in this segment, but 32 2/3 innings from our starting rotation this week. Outside of Ian Anderson, 5 runs given up, 1.38 ERA. A big part of that has been Charlie Morton. He threw, I think, close to 13 2/3 innings and only gave up 2 runs. Those 2 runs being against the Phillies last week. And let's just talk a little bit about that. He did not have his stuff on Tuesday night, and he still just was dominant. 2 runs over 6 2/3 innings or 5 2/3 innings, whatever it was that he did. With how he was throwing the ball, that was the definition of grit, honestly. So just kudos to that starting pitching staff. They did really well this week. And that's going to be my good. Obviously, bad is going to be today's game. Charlie Morton, I'm going to harp on this again. 7 innings, no runs, had a no-hitter, I think, through 5 or something like that. He had a no-hitter at some point. Maybe it was 6 innings. He just had a really good game. Walked 1, I think. Didn't give up a run. Just looked really, really good. And for us to come out and give up 3 in the 8th and 1 in the 9th, those kind of losses really hurt a team, especially when you have a chance to go into next week against 4 against the Cardinals and then 3 against the Nationals, just 2.5 back in the Mets. You really have a chance to tie up the division or take the lead at that point. And we've got a 3-game series against the Mets, so I have a strong feeling that we could easily come up on the Mets and take the lead before the All-Star break, but we cannot give games away like we did this Sunday or last Sunday when we had a 2-0 lead in the 9th inning and ended up losing in the 11th. So these kind of games are games that we have to finish off and win. We cannot give up 2 runs in the last inning for teams to win. It's just not plausible for us to win a division if we keep doing that. And then ugly, obviously, is Ian Anderson. I mean, 2 innings, 7 runs. I think he gave up 7 hits on Wednesday whenever he pitched, Thursday whenever he pitched. It was bad. There's nothing. I mean, it's really the definition of good, bad, and ugly. It was ugly. Just I'll add this. So I said 32 2/3 runs, or 32 2/3 innings from our starting rotation for 5 runs, a 1.38 ERA. You add Ian Anderson's outing into that, 34 2/3 innings. So 2 more innings gives up 7 more runs. That's a 3.11 ERA. So you're talking under a 1.5 to over a 3 just from one pitcher's outing. That's bad. That's really bad. And so, I mean, I love Ian. I mean, he was important to us in that 2020 season. I mean, he really helped us get to then LCS when Mike Soroka went down. And I mean, he was really good in game 3 of the World Series last season. And this year's just not been good aside from a couple starts here and there. Which it might be the maturity level. I mean, I think he's only 23 or 24 still, but I mean, at some point in time, Snit's got to sit here and think, I can't keep letting him go out there and getting shelled. Either send him down and let him work something out like you did AJ Minter last year, or move him, because you can't have a guy go out there every 5th day and give up 4 or 5 runs an outing.
My thing is, we have too many pitchers. So trade deadline, is it something where people are going to go back and say, look what this guy has done in the postseason? Especially it's going to be hard gauging with Soroka because Soroka's probably going to be coming back after the trade deadline. But if it's something you take a chance on now and then until Soroka gets back, then we kind of flirt with that 5th rotation or 5th spot in the rotation piece like we did, where Mueller might come up, or Davidson, or Tukey just no longer because he's DFA'd. But it's one of those things that I think the Braves waited too long on Tukey too, in terms of being able to probably get a good amount of, not profit per se, but surplus and talent for him at the time. So for Ian, is it something where he might get traded? Who knows? He's got to step it up if he doesn't want to be, in that conversation, because if you send him down, then we're just playing roulette in terms of just the pitchers are honestly the same caliber as him. And it's just, they can't stay in Gwinnett forever, because then we're going to be losing our value on them. But for me, in terms of highlights of this past week, though, outside the good, bad, and ugly, player of the week, to me, I'm wearing his jersey right now, Austin Riley. He was 10 for 26, 27, 23. Something like that.
23.
23. He just absolutely, the last 3 or 4 games, he had 2 hits apiece. And then his 2 homers in Cincy. His glove has been pretty spectacular too, making some of the plays. I can think of the one, I don't remember who they tagged out, but where he kind of made that almost that circus like snag pick, and then he threw it to Olsen, even though carried him off the bag. Olsen did a great job of applying the tag. So to me, it's Austin Riley. It stinks that I think he finished 3rd, so he wasn't a finalist for the All-Star voting. You never know, he might get subbed in because Snit has control of that, because I think he's very deserving, and he's still underwritten because he's one of 3, I think, in the NL. Pete Alonso and Schwarber, and then him maybe for the only people with 20 home runs in the NL. There might be one person I'm missing, but this is what we wanted out of Riley. If he hits 250 to 270, 30 plus homers, to me, he is our lifelong third baseman up until, he gets into his 30s. So to me, that's my player of the week. I'm excited to hopefully this kind of bust through that wall, because I know he gets in slumps, but he's coming out of it. So hopefully he just continues to mature through these slumps and continues to keep that 250 to 270 mark going.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. That was my player of the week too. I'll switch it up though. I'll add on to your Austin Riley stats. 10 for 23, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. I'd say is pretty good. If he's walking almost as much as he's striking out, that's a good week in my opinion. It doesn't matter where you're at on the strikeout to walk ratio, but it means you're seeing the ball well, in my opinion. He scored 5 runs, had 5 RBIs. The big thing that really popped out to me is he raised he raised his batting average by 13 points this week alone. 6 games, he raised it from a 253 to a 266. So that's pretty impressive this late into the season. But I guess going off that, I'll kind of mimic what I mentioned earlier. Just Charlie Morton, I'll say, is my player of the week then, because I mean, just his performances his past couple outings have just been really good and shown you why he started game 1 of the World Series. It's just been, he's been dominant. I mean, had 6 strikeouts, I think, through the first 4 innings today. And even when he was off on Tuesday, he was still only gave up 2 runs. So just impressive this past week. He's been impressive really this entire month. So it has to be my player of the week, and is very well on his way to riding the ship off this season. I think he's lowered his ERA by over a full run during the stretch.
For sure. And, I think it's going to be really important too with this upcoming series, because if I'm not mistaken, I want to say is it Cardinals, then Mets, then Mets?
It's Cardinals, Nats, Mets, and then Nats again.
Okay. So I mean, Charlie may not see the Mets he may not see the Mets at all, but he might go back to the Nets. And honestly, those are 2 great outings to finish the first half of the season strong, going into the All-Star break, ready to kind of contribute. So I'm glad he's starting to find it. That breaking ball was absolutely disgusting on Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon. So I'm looking to see what Charlie's able to do, especially if Soroka comes back to prime Soroka, which hasn't been much coming out of that camp in terms of, he's been down there for 30 days and hasn't had a rehab assignment yet. So don't know what's going on there with Soroka, because I'm still seeing reports could be at the end of July at the time he shows up, but still no word on whenever he's starting his rehab assignment.
Well, you got to think, I mean, he probably hasn't been putting a lot of pressure on that foot. So for him to get back his arm strength, he's got to be, I mean, it's going to take more than 3 or 4 weeks for him to get to the point where he can start throwing off a mound consistently, whether it be 20, 30, 40 pitches. But I'll add that Morton will see the Mets. I think he'll pitch the series, or the series finale, or game 2 of that series. So he's one that right now I want to see pitch against the Mets, and Max Fried is also one that I want to see pitch against the Mets, and either Strider or Kyle Wright, I'd be happy with pitching against the Mets. Fried will get a shot against the Mets. I think it'll be Fried, Strider, and Morton, which is a good probable starters for that series, and a chance, honestly, to sweep the Mets, which would be huge in my opinion. I mean, the way those 3 have been pitching lately, I could easily see a 3-game sweep, just because of how dominant they've been. But I'll kind of go over. I've got the probable starters for these series. We've got 4 against the Cardinals, and then 3 against the Nationals. Monday night we'll face off against Dakota Hudson, who has a 3.83 ERA, 6-4 on the season. Kyle Wright takes the mound. 9-4, 3.03 ERA, had a really good outing against the Phillies. He's just kept impressing throughout the season. And then on Tuesday night, Palante takes on Ian Anderson. Palante's 2-3 with a 2.10 ERA, so that should be a pitcher to watch out for against Ian Anderson, who's 6-5 and has a 5.31 ERA. So I'm not saying how the game will go, but if we lose a game out of that 4-game series, my money would be on that one to be lost. And then Miles McCullough, who's been really impressive. I have him on my fantasy team. Has a 5-6 record, but he surely hasn't pitched like he's 5-6. He has a 2.61 ERA. Was really close to throwing a no-hitter a couple weeks ago. And he's going up against Max Fried, who has a 2.66 ERA. So that is probably going to be your matchup of the series right there. Those 2 are going to be going head to head, I think, on Wednesday night. So that'll be a really good baseball game. And then I'm not sure who will start the series finale, but my money is on Jordan Hicks for the Cardinals. He's coming off the 15-day IL. And I know that they're trying to get him as a starter. I know he's not really supposed to be a starter because he throws absolute gas and really should be in the bullpen, but they're trying to stretch him out. Which is funny because we've got him going up against Spencer Strider, who is that flamethrower who the Braves have successfully stretched out to be that that starter who can throw Ched. But Jordan Hicks 4.75 ERA, 1-4 record against Strider, who's got a 4-2 record and a 2.87 ERA. And then against the Nationals, you got Morton going again to lead off that series. And breaking news right now, the Los Angeles Angels have received Touki Toussaint for cash considerations from the Braves.
Well, I mean, the Angels' new general manager was the assistant GM for us, wasn't he?
He was, Paramanesian. He probably has watched Touki plenty and wanted him, which it might be a good fit for him. He'll get plenty of time in the league, I feel like, because they don't really have a strong starting five aside from, I think, Patrick Sandoval, I think is his name.
Yeah, you're slightly off by 200 pounds,
right? And Shohei Ohtani. Aside from those two, really, there's not much. But back to our matchups of the week. So Eric Fetty and Morton go up. I think that's going to be an easy breeze for Morton in game one of that series. Hopefully the offense can score some runs, because I feel like every outing Morton has that's just really good, the Braves offense just lacks in scoring runs. And then Patrick Corbin, 4-10, 6.06 ERA, facing off against Wright. I feel like another easy matchup. And then to round out the series, Paulo Espino, he's 0-1 with a 2.80 ERA. And he's kind of been in a Strider-esque role. He was in the bullpen, and they've tried to stretch him out as a starter. Hasn't been too successful. I think he's got 3 or 4 starts under his belt right now. Right. I think he's like 2 earned runs, I think, or no earned runs in his past couple starts. So hasn't been able to go a full 5, or like maybe went 5 full innings, but hasn't been successful enough to get a win. Going up against Ian Anderson. Hopefully this is a game that can give Anderson confidence going into the All-Star break, because he'll end up facing the Nationals twice before going into the All-Star break. So hopefully he can, get 2 good outings, take 3 or 4 days off from the All-Star break, and really find himself again and give us a good push to the back half of the season. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, and speaking on the Touki thing, Jack Mayfield was under 40 man, wasn't he, last year? Or Jack Mayfield?
On ours?
Yeah.
I think at some point in time he was.
Yeah, well, Touki just bumped him off their 40 man over in LA. But no, all the best luck to Touki. Yeah, to me, for this upcoming week, I'm kind of looking at the notes that Nicholas sent me. So is it 4-3, 4 Cardinals, 3 Nat series?
Yes.
So to me, it wouldn't surprise me. I'd love for us at home to win the series, win 3 out of 1. So, I mean, I would be all for a 6-1 sweep the Nats. I think that's very doable. Same thing, 5-2, I'm okay with. I really don't want 4-3. That means that we lost, one of the series. But if we're 5-2, 6-1 at home constantly, and then we're winning the series or tying them on the road, especially here soon, that's what I'm okay with. But so kind of for my hot take, that actually my hot take was actually Touki was going to get traded. But now that makes it look like I'm lying because I
will back him up. He did send me a screenshot of Touki's numbers in AAA, and I asked him. I had no idea what the context was. Because all it was numbers, and he said these are Touki's numbers in AAA, and I knew he was hinting at a possible Touki's out of the Braves organization. So
and he literally got DFA'd like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
But ice keeps annoying me. But so my hot take is, I think I've already said it before with Ozuna's contract getting dumped, but I just don't see why we need so many pitchers right now, especially my boy JJ's killing it down single A. He kind of got, got his butt kicked last game, but the dude's still 7-1 with a 2.122 ERA. He needs to get bumped up. For him to get bumped up, we need to be shipping off some of these other pitchers and getting skill position players, which I feel like we're fairly thin in now, considering if you think of some of the infield, Brandon Shoemake's probably really the only one that's impressing people in the infield. But really, all of our talent is in pitching, and we have Freed, Soroka, if Ian comes around, Strider. All of our dudes are like 28 and younger. And I think Freed's the anomaly. He's the 28-year-old. Soroka's what, 25?
Yeah, they're all pretty young. But
so that's my hot take, is that I think I think it's something where if they try to dump Ozuna, they're going to have to attach, Muller or Ian or, Tucker, somebody like that. So that's my hot takes. I think, we might see one or two of these pitchers that have been up to the majors already, that we know fairly well. I think they're going to be shipped off. I mean, even I don't want him to go because I think he's pitching more, but Dylan Lee, dude's going off, but where are you going to put him with Kirby and Tyler and Jay Jackson and all these guys coming back? So it wouldn't surprise me. It's my hot take this week that by the end of July, if we're down a couple prospect pitchers.
Quite honestly, you can't have enough pitching, in my opinion. Obviously, we're overcrowded in that position, especially when it comes to the bullpen. I feel like there's just more and more people coming in from AAA and showing out in the bullpen. But as far as starters go, I mean, I remember a time when we were trying to figure out our starter situation back in 2020. We pulled up Kyle Wright to pitch, and it was Max Fried, Ian Anderson, and Kyle Wright that really led us in the NLCS. So I do see us starting to try and maybe make some deals for some of those arms we have in AAA that haven't. I mean, you got Huascar, Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, all three of those pitchers, and we've got no room for them. It's not like we can put them in the bullpen and do long relief. We've got plenty of that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out over time. I don't really have a hot take. I'm not very good at these, to be honest with you. So I'll end it with that.
I tell you what, hot take would have been super hot that I never thought would have happened was all the crap that went out about Freddie and his agent this past week.
Yeah, but it's very believable. I can definitely see that happening. We could talk about that a little bit. I mean, Derek Jeter came to the side of Casey Close saying like he would never do that. What?
Yeah, well, look at Jeter's integrity. He's a piece of crap.
Well, I was sitting here thinking like, it's easy for you to say when you play in the highest baseball market possible. Of course, he's going to try and get you a deal back with the Yankees. It's like, look at Casey Close's his agent or who he represents. He also represents a guy in Clayton Kershaw who, what did he say last week? He hopes that the Braves the Dodgers aren't playing second fiddle to the Braves for Freddie Freeman. It's just like, now it's almost like a conspiracy theory, in my opinion. Like, it's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I feel bad, somebody I wanted to say is player of the week just for the way he performed in Philadelphia after, a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders. Now that's over with, is Matt Olson. I mean, all he did was hit 2 home runs and I think 3 doubles the next day. I feel bad for the man because he's almost playing second fiddle to Braves fans right now with all this Freddie Freeman drama going on.
In a perfect world, Freddie would come back. Somehow he'd dump Ozuna, and that, I still think Ozuna's going to go somewhere. If Rosie comes back, I mean, it depends on what's going on. I think they said Duvall's day to day, but that's a lot of money. That is a liability right now. So in a perfect world, Freddie comes back and Olson's DH. Freddie plays first. Whenever the legs need a break, you switch them, and whoever that son of a gun was trying to mouth off to me on Twitter, I doubt he even listens to this, so he's dumb. I know what I'm talking about. And because he thought, like I was going to say, get rid of Olson and Riley. No, just Riley stays at third, and you literally just, how crazy would it be you have, because Muncy right now is sucking playing second base and third base, but like, how awesome would it be having 2 out of the top 4 first basemen be your first baseman and DH? Better than Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah. I'm done.
I
if
think
you
I
wanna-
caught. Yeah, I think I caught Nick off guard with that.
Yeah, I
that
don't
small
know where
rant.
it came from.
But anywho, as usual, we appreciate y'all hopping on. This is the 4th of July episode. So happy 4th of July. Happy birthday to the greatest freaking country in the world. No matter who you are, we're very blessed to live in the country that we live in, and be able to kind of have those rights. And so, like, subscribe, share with a friend. And here in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing an All-Star Break special episode. We're going to have a special guest we're pretty pumped about. So like I said, be a friend, tell a friend, and we look forward to seeing you to the next one. So until then, Braves country, chop on.